Get in on the action this season with Underdog's Pick'em game. Select higher or lower between 2 and 8 players and compete for up to 325 times your entry. Use code DIRECTOR when signing up to receive up to $1,000 in bonus cash and a free pick. Yo to Bolt fam, it's the Director. Chargers fans. Can you guys believe it, dude? Can you believe what the Chargers are pulling off right now? This is maybe the biggest success that we've seen in a long time in this team, dude. I don't know about you guys. I'm soaking in every single moment. It's a gentle reminder to fans, enjoy it, dude. Enjoy it while we have it. Enjoy it while it's here. I know a lot of us, we've been hurt. We've been here a long time. You know, we've enjoyed the first 2 or 3 quarters just to blow it in the end. I'm telling you right now, dude, I don't know if I'm getting that feeling with this team this year. It feels like they are for real, especially after the brutal beginning to their schedules, back-to-back division games. We now stand on top of the AFC West. Maybe even more than that right now, dude. We're going to get into that here in just a second now. And now it's our turn to find ourselves in a maybe softer matchup. The Chargers will be taking on the New York Giants in a game I'm sure very many fantasy managers are excited to start Chargers in. And in a game whose headline reads, Jaxson darts his first career start versus the Los Angeles Chargers defense. I'm not quite sure about that one, but, you know, we'll see how it works out. A lot of unknowns when it comes to Jaxson Dart, but, you know, I can certainly imagine better situations for a rookie to begin their career in. It'll be a fun one. We're going to unpack this game. Chargers, Giants. Before we do, shout out to the sponsor, Underdog, which, by the way, man, they just upped the ante. I'm going to turn this off for a second. Check this out. Play just $5. Get $100 in bonus funds. That's awesome, man. If you've ever been wondering, does Underdog for me, is daily sports fun? Well, number one, yes, it's absolutely a huge blast. And number two, that is a great way to jump in and get your feet wet. Pretty much a free hundy. Absolutely, dude. And make sure to take advantage of these as well, man. We've got these free picks all over the place, these tokens. Just check on those daily. I got a whole bunch of really nice ones, you know, starting to line up for this Sunday. Again, I don't even watch golf. Who's this Bryson DeChambeau? I don't know. But I'm going to take the free pick, and then I'm going to marry it with an NFL pick that I actually do know. We got this free pick for George Pickens. Sure, let's throw it together with an Amorian Hampton and Keenan Allen. And then finally, we did get a discount on Justin Herbert. I'm going to go ahead and bet that he throws for a bit more than Jaxson Dart in this one. I think that's pretty safe to say. It's a great way to support my platform, have some fun along the way. Thank you to everybody so far, man, that have signed up and enjoyed the season. It's just getting started, too, man. Where are we at now? 4? Woo! Let's have a good time with it. Before we do kick off, hit us up with a like and sub if you do enjoy this Chargers content. The small amount of time you guys take to the like, sub, and bell notification helps me out a lot. Let's get into it. Lights, camera, action.
Who's got it better than us?
Into the end zone, Charger fans are witnesses to history.
Your Chargers at Giants. Week 4, right? Game preview. Let's go, dude. Let's go. Again, gentle reminder, especially if you are outside the Chargers fandom, and if you had not been in the know by now, the Chargers are on top of the AFC West. How sick is that, dude? How crazy is it to see the Chargers on top at 3-0 and the Kansas City Chiefs at the bottom at 1-2? And I'm going to be honest with you guys. I mean, we saw that last game. It was actually versus the Giants, closer than you would think it is. And, you know, that's something to take into account when we're talking about how they're going to play versus the Chargers. But I think it says more about where the Chiefs are at this point. I wasn't very impressed. Outside of Patrick Mahomes, obviously, he's still one of the best quarterbacks out there. I wasn't very impressed by this Chiefs team in that first easy game on their schedule. Something to wait and see. Also, gentle reminder, the Chargers are not just on top of the AFC West. Let's go to the conference here. Hey, look at that. It's the Chargers again. 3-0, and what was a huge disadvantage at the top of the season, you know, the 3 back-to-back division games, has become a huge blessing for this squad, who now sit at the very top of the AFC conference. But oh no, it doesn't stop there. The league as well, the Chargers will sit on top. And again, if you guys are wondering, I was like, well, Director, look, there's so many teams that are undefeated still. What is that, like 6 or 7? There was only one team that has 3 straight division wins, which puts the Chargers firmly in first place in the league. I know, it's crazy. Crazy times we live in. I hope to see that stretch through the entire season. And, you know, honestly, you know, Jim Harbaugh has a reputation with really wowing his new teams in his second year. So I'm hoping that we see this continue throughout the season. Let's go ahead and jump into this game real quick by getting the injury report out of the way. And this one is very interesting. There's a lot of names this week. Okay, and again, I'm not going to speculate too far, but when you have a matchup where you're favored this much, I think it makes some sense to help some guys get a little bit of extra rest that maybe would be, borderline playing in a game that has more stake. I have to imagine last week versus the Broncos, there were guys out there that are like, we had Bozeman go down at one point. We had Pipkins go down at one point. But you've got to play out that game. You've got to finish it out because we need you. That's a huge, huge game within the division. This week versus the Giants, I'm Will Dissly, I'd like to see him come back healthier before we face, I think the next game I'm particularly interested in is the Colts game, right? Is that week 7, where we wear the yellow jerseys, right? By the way, guys, it's growing on me. Okay, that's all I'm going to say. And this is one of those things, by the way, in my own defense, I think grew on me more as I experienced it in person. I don't know how camera-friendly the gold jerseys are, but heck, dude, they look great in person. That's all I'm going to say. We want Will Dissly back sooner rather than later. He's not going to play this one. He'll be out. Darius Davis, interesting situation here. Who's going to be the returner for the Chargers? Keep that one in mind. I mean, we saw some Hassan Haskins, which I'm not particularly, what's the upside there? What's the ceiling there? Do we see maybe KLS get an opportunity? Do they elevate Naheem Hines now that we're in need of another running back? I would assume it's going to be Kamani Vidal. We'll talk about that here in just a second, too. Mekhi Becton also out in concussion protocol. Some people docking him for that. Dude, what are you going to do to stop a concussion? It happens. You got to go through the proper protocols to keep your brain safe. Okay? So we're hoping to see him back soon. Amari Sawyer, season all day, every day. Guys that we should maybe see back, though, Elijah Molden. That would be pretty sick. I think he's our best high safety right now outside of Derwin, obviously. Obviously outside of Derwin. But Chargers have seen some struggles in cover 1. I'd like to see Elijah Molden back out there. Cam Hart also to make a return, hopefully. Full practice across the board for all these guys. Would be pretty nice to see him. It's crazy how we've gone through 2 long snappers already, but hopefully he's good for this game. Dante Jackson. Anyway, looking pretty good. And Trey Pipkins, obviously, we're hoping to see out there as well. On the Giants side, no Graham Gano. Who's their kicker right now? I forget. Either way, he's not going to be in this one. Roches, doubtful. Who else do we have? Out is Tyron Tracy, the receiving back, exceptional receiving back. Of course, we're going to see a lot of Cam Scatabo this week. Scatabo. I know a lot of us thought Scatabo, hoping the Chargers would draft him, get a little Scatabolt in here. But now Scatabo out there should be pretty serviceable. I think, honestly, all of us knew that was going to be the case when they drafted him. And then Chauncey Golston, defensive end, also not going to be out there. Outside of that, limited practices everywhere. So, I mean, just keep an eye out for it on game day. Who knows what's going to happen to Slayton, Andrew Thomas, Art Green, these guys, limited practice. Kind of a wait and see. But there you go. That's who to expect to suit up on Sunday. Let's jump into, again, like what I say all the time, the meat and potatoes of this video, starting with the elephant in the room, okay? I think the big... I'm sorry. I don't know where I found this photo. This is the face you make when you find out you're going to be starting your first NFL career game versus the Chargers defense, which has been absolutely not friendly to quarterbacks, okay? The elephant in the room. The elephant in the room. Whew, the elephant in the room. Jaxson Dart starting his first game. I can't look at the monitors for a second here. I'm going to look at you guys. The elephant in the room. Jaxson Dart will see his first start in the NFL versus the Chargers secondary, okay? And this is a decision that, if I were Brian Daboll and company, I don't think that's the call, okay? If you're not super confident in Russell Wilson, you've got to give your guy Jaxson Dart at least one more week to settle in, right? Give the sacrificial Russell Wilson game to, the veteran quarterback who's more equipped, in my opinion, to handle that. And we saw some reps from earlier in the season where I think we saw Russell Wilson and then a small share of Jaxson Dart out there as well to just kind of get his feet wet and And I was anticipating this move at some point this season, but certainly not in week 4, and certainly not versus this particular opponent. You have to imagine their schedule softens up a little bit after this week too. Just a tough break, man. Tough break for Jaxson Dart. If you're a Giants fan, say a prayer. Call upon the ancestors. Protect number 6. We'll see how he does. I am going to say this, though, because we're going to get into it in just a minute as well, but there are unknowns when you have a rookie quarterback playing his first ever game. Like, there's no tape. Outside, obviously, college, there's no NFL tape on this guy. We don't know anything about him at this level at this point. So there are some X factors out here, but I think the Chargers defense has been playing too good, and it's not going to be a good day for Jaxson Dart. Okay? All right, let's move on before I absolutely lose it. I have funny bones going crazy. Meanwhile, you got Justin Herbert, who's been going absolutely ham this season. Okay, it's a stark contrast, right? You got the new kid coming in, tough break, and then you got the MVP level caliber Justin Herbert, who has been just on an absolute roll. Currently 860 passing yards. He's also got 69 rushing yards on top of that. Nice. You put that together, that's what, 900 total yards on the season over that? That's insane, dude. That's insane. Going into week 4. Who says Justin Herbert isn't an MVP level quarterback this season? If you do, you're wrong. Herbert's been on another level. He's got 3 receivers with over 150 yards each, right? He's spreading the ball around. He's running with the football all of a sudden, which is, something that I feel like he's been held back from doing for several years now. That's something that defenses are stressing and sweating over. And then you come into this game, which is one of the friendliest versus quarterbacks we've seen in terms of opponent. It just feels like we're going to be able to do whatever we want in the air. Because take a look at the previous 3 opponents, right? The Denver Broncos have a really good defense. We got smacked around that game. Despite the win, Justin Herbert was getting clobbered out there. Secondary, of course, Pat Surtain. UJ had him thinking about retirement. But he's still one of the best, if not the best corner in the league. Able to figure him out, right? That pass rush, disgusting. Of course, they had us all night with the Broncos. You can say something similar about the Giants. I like their numbers, right? They got Thibodeau. They got Abdul Carter, Dexter Lawrence. They got a lot of pass rushers out there to sweat over. But again, I don't think they're better than the Broncos. And Justin Herbert's proven to be able to, throw the most ridiculous pass I've ever seen to Keenan Allen with the defender in his face for a touchdown for a clutch, victory in the fourth quarter. I feel like we're doing pretty good here. And honestly, Justin Herbert and his success, Chargers fans will tell you, like, we've always known. Like, he's had his games where, of course, there have not been the best decisions made, maybe folding under pressure. But for the most part, 80, 90% of his career, every Chargers fan will tell you, this is who he's been all along. He's just had things holding him back. Whether it be not being 100% healthy, whether it be a bad, offensive coordinator or coach. But most recently, I think it's been mostly because of lack of weapons. That is not the case this season. We are seeing maybe the best receiving core for the Chargers that we've had in a very long time. And what's crazy is that it's composed of 2 guys that Herbert's already played a bunch with, in Quentin Johnston and Keenan Allen. Of course, Keenan had the year off with the Chicago Bears. He went and found himself, played a little piano, enjoyed the scenery, and came back to the Bolts and is looking like his old self. You know what I mean? It's insane how many catches this guy has all of a sudden. You got Quentin Johnson, who's on this insane bounce back year. Like, I don't know if there's as many players as deserving of a pat on the back as Quentin Johnson for quieting the noise and silencing the haters and focusing on football, putting in the work, and just realizing your potential in this, one of the final seasons of his rookie contract. Like, that is unbelievable work by number 1. I continue every week he catches a pass or has a big game or whatever. Runs a route. I look at number 1 and I feel feel so freaking proud of this guy, man. What a story for him. And that's not even considering the Chargers' maybe number one wide receiver in Ladd McConkey, who was the best Chargers rookie receiver in franchise history last season. Look at that. And then you tally on top of that, we got rookies. KLS has been more or less okay. You know, but Trey Harris has looked pretty good. Darius Davis has been, great in terms of returning, sprinkled in here and there. The Chargers receiving corps is absolutely insane right now. And I think you're starting to see why Justin Herbert is enjoying a lot of the numbers that he has. 860 passing yards doesn't come with a bad receiving corps. Like, that receiver room has to be pretty good. Like, everybody. And it's being proven by the amount of yards and catches and stats being put up by all three of his top receivers. Over 150 yards per receiver for his top three guys. QJ's already over 230 yards, 3 scores on the year. Absolutely insane. It just feels like, even against a good secondary, if the Chargers want to throw the ball, they're not going to have any problems doing so. Who's going to stop them? And against a defense, which I'm guessing, again, I actually have some of the numbers here that we're going to go over in a second. I won't. Is one of the worst in football. You have to imagine that if the Chargers are in a position where they need to throw, they're going to throw pretty well. Not to mention another storyline for this week that gets me super hyped. Oronde Gadsden, man. Holy cow. I know Dan from Chargers Unleashed out there is going absolutely nuts. That was his guy, dude. He called me up after the draft, and he was so stoked that we picked this guy up late. Was it 5th round, right? And so far, we're seeing that potential realized in his very first NFL start, dude. He had, I don't know how many targets. I should have written it down. But he would pick up 5 receptions. 3 or 4 of those would go for first downs. That's an explosion of a first game for a rookie. Not to mention all of the targets that he got in the red zone. Of course, the passes were hurried because of the pressure by the Broncos line. He honestly was in position for 2 touchdowns that game. Had Herbert had a little bit more time to get him the football. We honestly might have something pretty huge here in Oronde Gadsden. And this week versus the Giants is a really good week to figure out exactly what you have. And what I mean by that is, like, from a coach's standpoint, like, you're kind of rolling the dice when you're throwing him out there versus, the Chiefs. Maybe that's why he was inactive the first 2 games, because you don't really know when it comes down to it, on Sunday, or that game, I guess Friday, what you have in the young rookie yet. But now you got the Giants, who presumably you're going to be able to throw on a lot if you want. Let's get Oronde Gadsden out there, see what he's made of, so that we can start grooming him for the second half of the season, where there's going to be some tough matchups. Like, we're seeing this slew of games that look pretty easy, which let's go look at it real quick together, because this is pretty crazy. I'm going to ask you guys real quick, what do you think the record's going to be, right, by week 9 or 10? Okay, here we go. We got the Giants, Washington, who's had a bunch of injuries lately, including their quarterback, Miami, the Colts. We'll give them some credit. Indiana Jones out there working miracles, performing, the last crusade of bringing the Colts back to life. We got the Vikings, which I'm going to be at that game. By the way, if you guys want a chance to say, hey, what's up, grab a pic. I'm going to be at the Die Hard Bowl Club Canopy in the South Thunder Alley, I think is where they said it would be. Great opportunity. I would love to see. I always feel bad. I get messages from people. Where are you? Well, we were running around. Sorry. We'll be there for at least a couple hours, that game. Then we got Tennessee, Pittsburgh, Jacksonville. Holy cow, this run of games. The Raiders again. Until finally, we're going to hit a bunch of more difficult games to close the season. There's the Super Bowl champions, the Eagles. AFC West's former champion, Kansas City Chiefs there in Week 15. Dallas has not looked great. Houston's not looked great. And then Denver. Pretty competent opponent. I mean, what are we looking at here, dudes? Realistically, what do you think the record is? Pretty insane. Anyway, before we get too far off topic, Oronde Gadsden. This is the time of the season to ramp up the guys that you need in form for the last like 5 or 6 games that are going to be pretty difficult. All right? Excited for him. Meanwhile, I think my player of the game, outside of Justin Herbert, of course, is going to be Omarion Hampton. And I know, I'm probably the biggest, like, Omarion Hampton hype guy on YouTube. Guilty. I'm guilty. All right? Guilty of that. Guilty as charged. Great name for a podcast. If you know, you know. But I think he's going to have himself a very good opportunity to go off on this game. And it's because game script kind of demands it, right? The Chargers, they're going to run the football. We've all known this. Najee Harris is not out there any longer, which, again, so unfortunate. My heart ripped in half when it happened. But I think the touches for Omarion Hampton are going to go way up. I really do. And there might be a form of a bell cow on our hands at this point, because I don't know if we can go true bell cow, because the Chargers obviously are going to be throwing the football a lot, something, you know, Greg Roman surprised a lot of us with. But the touches, in the most part, you have to imagine are going to go to Omarion Hampton, and I think he's going to feast this game. I really do. Last week, he dropped 129 yards and a touchdown on the Denver Broncos. Okay? Half of that was through the air, by the way. So expect some more receptions for him. I wouldn't be shocked to see another 4 or 5 receptions on top of what he produces on the ground. But it feels like he could easily see his first 100-yard game. The Chargers, who are presumably going to be up a good portion of this game, will likely want to hand the football off. The Giants are not a good team at stopping the run. I think Omarion Hampton is going to have himself a game that continues to build his confidence. And that's what I love about the schedule right now, is that these young guys, Gadsden and Hampton and maybe Trey Harris and some of these guys, they have an opportunity to build that confidence, right? That experience, that confidence. Chargers, of course, we need to win these games, take them very serious, but what the opponents have shown us so far in the season are favorable matchups for these guys. And Omarion Hampton, I think, you know, outside of Justin Herbert, has the best situation for him in this matchup to have a big game. So I wouldn't be, you know, the least bit shocked to see 100-plus yards on the ground, 20, 30-plus yards through the air, another touchdown, because the Chargers, who are going to want to control the clock, keep the ball, you know, on the ground, keep the defense off the field. It feels like Omarion Hampton, this is why they drafted him. And his final form, you know, his Super Saiyan level up, it's not happened yet. I feel like he's broken out a little bit last week versus the Broncos, but the version of Omarion Hampton that got me so hyped in the offseason when we drafted him and while we were researching him and all this kind of stuff, the hype that lasted all offseason long, I feel like that true potential is still in the future. It may not even be this season, but you're ramping up. And considering how good he was last week versus the Broncos, it's exciting to think where his ceiling might be. Meanwhile, you got the Giants, okay? And again, I got some numbers here. We'll go through it a little quickly. The video's starting to get stretched out a little bit. Giants' defense is not good, okay? Allowing the second most yards per game in the NFL. North of 400 yards per game. That is wild. Again, think about the defenses we just played. Denver, incredible. Raiders, sneakily really good versus the run. The Chiefs, very good, well-rounded, you know, all-around very good defense. This is insane, the stark contrast that we're seeing now between them and the Giants. Second most yards. And this is due to their 5th worst pass defense, which, again, Justin Herbert should have a pretty good time throwing on that one. And the 2nd worst run defense. These guys cannot stop a nosebleed, let alone the 3-0 Chargers, who are on a roll right now. In their game versus the Cowboys, they would give up 100 yards to Javonte Williams and CeeDee Lamb. Same game, by the way. Both of those guys. Great players. Javonte, I think, took a lot of people by surprise. But the same game. Ground, air, didn't matter. Dak Prescott, who hasn't looked particularly good. I would know. I've had him on my fantasy football team all season. I just dropped him. I don't want any business of him playing as the Packers. Don't want it. He dunked on the Giants for over 350 yards. Insane. Insane game by Dak Prescott. That whole game was insane. That's the kind of defense we're working with. They would also play the Commanders, who allowed over 300 total yards to Jaden Daniels. They allowed Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt in his very first NFL game to go for 80 yards and a touchdown versus them. And by the way, Austin Eckler was still out there, right? And other running backs to steal touches. Bill would still have a big game, his first start. And now they're facing Herbert, who's playing at MVP level. Insane. Giants defense, not good. Not good at all. Got to watch out for the pass rush a little bit, right? But they are bottom of the league in very many stats. I hope the Chargers take control. And part of me wants them to pour it on just to prove how good they are. But again, it's all about business now. This is Jim Harbaugh team. Let's get in, let's get out, let's get the win. You know what I mean? Not underestimate, which I'm doing. It's not my job, though. It's their job. Don't underestimate their opponents. I'm sure they're taking it very serious. Very, very serious. But get in, get out, stay healthy. Kind of the mantra that you're looking for. Meanwhile, the Chargers defense, which again, we talked a little bit about with Jaxson Dart. This is brutal, dude. This is one of the best defenses we've seen, which is crazy because of how good they were last season. They've been absolutely stellar. Just talked about the Giants being a bottom 2 team in yards allowed. Well, here are the Chargers. Top 10 team in yards allowed in terms of best, right? Top 5 team in points allowed. So they literally, like last season, they were the best team in the season in terms of points allowed. Well, now they're the top, 5 best teams in the league. They look pretty unstoppable. Last week, did we log an interception versus Bo Nix? I don't remember. This week, I would assume that the Chargers find more success in terms of turnovers. You're hoping to see that. The coverage, though, I think has been the star on top of the tree. That is the Jesse Minter defense. Like, absolutely unreal coverage from all these guys who don't have any business being that good. Outside of Derwin James, like, who do we got in that secondary? You love Tarheeb still, obviously. You love Cam Hart. Some people don't love Alohi Gilman. I still think he's good. Who do you have in terms of superstars? Really nobody. This defense has been so expertly crafted that you've got Tony Jefferson crawling out of his grave, back out of retirement, becoming a top safety in the league again. In this photo, he would pick off Geno Smith and a part of his soul for that win. Awesome. They look really unstoppable at this point. And I don't know where I found these photos, okay? Now Jaxson Dart, the quarterback of the New York Giants, is going to have a lot on his plate for this one. Again, a lot of unknowns here. Some say it's a trap game scenario. I get it. We're Chargers fans, right? But the fact of the matter is the Bolts defense is just too good right now. If they could shut down Bo Nix and Geno Smith and Pat Mahomes, I just don't know how much hope there is for Jaxson Dart. All right. To close this one out, I got the Chargers running away with this one. Give me the Bolts on top of the Giants. I got the Chargers 31 to the Giants 10. Maybe the first somewhat blowout of the season, but again, game script demands it. Matchup demands it. Current streak and everything demands it. It's going to be one of those games. I'm very excited to see Omarion Hampton and Oronde Gadsden. I think those are the two biggest things in terms of the offense that get me hyped. We know what we have in Justin. We know what we have in the receivers. Let's see how much more we can ramp up before we see some of those really big matchups a little later in the season. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining me. This has been The Director. Please hit us with your game predictions, score predictions in the chat, in the comment section below. And let's get excited for this Sunday matchup, man. I think it's going to be really fun. I'm definitely going to be excited for Underdog on this one, too. If you guys want one more sneak peek at that, this is what we're rocking with. Dart lower. And we're going to go higher to Marion and Keenan. And throw a little Jordan Mason in there for some fun. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining me. Catch you next time. As always, bolt up, stay frosty. And let's get Gadsden out there for his first touchdown. I think that'd be pretty cool.